A very warm evening to you, sir. We welcome you on board. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm great, thank you. I hope the same for you guys, for you
Yes,
too
sir.
also.
Yes.
Absolutely good, sir. The Center for Maritime Law, National Law University Odisha takes great pleasure to have you on board. It's a true honor for us for being the medium to have your opinions and views shared to our public at large. As a center, we intend to build a community that fosters towards the goal of development for our shipping industry. Now, before beginning with our interactive session, let me take a moment and have our audience briefed about your great strides at work.
Right?
Captain Pankaj Kapoor is a senior partner specialized in maritime law at India Law Offices based in Mumbai. He holds the educational background of bachelor's degree in law from Mumbai University and post-graduation in maritime law from the London Metropolitan University. He pockets extensive knowledge and experience by having been served as a Master Mariner for 14 years, a maritime consultant, president at Venus International Limited in Dubai, serving as a visiting faculty at several colleges, and so on. He adds a colorful feather to his achievement by being an eminent ex-committee member of NITI Aayog for National Maritime Policy and discharging his duty for the nation holistically. So we thank you for your time and association with CML.
Thank you.
Now, may I request Karthikeya to briefly walk us through the importance of June 8, which is the annual celebration as the World's Ocean Day, and the account of which we are having this special themed discussion on a very elaborate topic. Over to you, Karthikeya.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, sir. A very good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Karthikeya.
So, this interview comes in light of the World Ocean Day celebrated each year on 8th of June, which was themed this year on the quotation that innovation for a sustainable ocean.
Yep.
And who better to answer questions on this topic than Mr. Pankaj Kapoor, a member of the NITI Aayog, a Government of India wing for innovative transformation of modern India. This year's theme was aimed at enforcing the importance of scientific and technological innovations in dealing with several challenges associated with the lungs of the earth, that is the ocean. Why lungs? Because oceans constitute the major amount of oxygen that we have in our lives to breathe. When one thinks of public health, oceans per se does not assume much of importance. Why I bring this to my audience and to you? Because of this pandemic situation, the public health has become so important. However, when we think of that term, oceans does not come in our conversation often. However, as per the UN, various scientists have discovered a bacteria a whole time back before this pandemic came into picture, which is currently used for fast-track testing of COVID-19 and even to combat the pandemic. This is only one instance of the importance of oceans in our everyday life. With this, I move on to my first question, if I may have your permission.
Please, let's go ahead.
Much obliged. So
Thank
the
you.
first question which I would like to put to you is starting from the very basics. What, according to you, are the three requirements to achieve the goal of sustainable ocean vis-a-vis sustainable shipping?
Well, in order to answer this question, we'll have to go a few years back to something which we call COP21. The COP stands for Conference of Parties, and 21 stands for the 21st meeting of this Conference of Parties. This was a meeting held somewhere around 2015, where United Nations, along with all its 192 members, they decided that they should do something about reducing the greenhouse gases which are polluting. And we in the shipping industry, following on the footsteps of that COP21, have come out with various regulations. Just for your information, I'm sure your audience are aware of it, that the body which governs shipping is IMO, International Maritime Organization. So IMO came out with the resolution 112630, and under IMO there is a Marine Environment Protection Committee, MEPC. They came out with circular number 74, and both these resolutions and the circular MAPC, they aimed for reducing the greenhouse gases emitted by the ships by the year 2050 to a level which is 50%, 50% less than what the emission was in 2008. That means the base year was 2008, and if shipping emits, say, 100 tons of greenhouse gases in 2008, the aim of IMO was to bring it down to 50 tons by the year 2050. Your question also said which are some of the pillars on which the sustainable development is based on. We in shipping or the world over, it's known by the acronym SEE, C. C stands for society, E for economy, and another E is for environment. So we in the shipping also believe that the use of the present environment, the sea environment, should be such that it assists in the growth of the economy, and at the same time it maintains sufficient development left for the future generations to use. By its very definition, sustainable development is defined as a development that meets the needs of the present generation, and at the same time there should be enough left for regrowth and use for the future generations. So in line with the acronym SEE, like I said, IMO has come out with the resolution 112630 and MAPC 74. So we are very much, IMO as well as the shipping industry is very much into it and very much following it and pursuing this goal of COP21.
Thanks a lot for your answer, sir.
Okay.
Sir, now the care for this ocean and the water bodies assumes special importance because it is a fact that oceans serve as part of a large amount of economic growth for various countries around the world. It gives us an access to fisheries, minerals, and whatnot. So, what according to you, how according to you the concept of blue economy can be defined? And if you could please put in a nutshell, what does sustainable blue growth may mean in the coming years?
Yep, very nice. The question is very nice, but we must understand what is blue economy and how did it start. Well, the blue economy actually was, for the first time, the world heard about a term as blue economy was in 2012, when there was a sustainable development. About blue economy was in 2012, when UNO had its first meeting in Rio de Janeiro to create a sustainable development. Blue economy, some people also term it as ocean economy, some term it as ocean growth. Some people call it green economy or blue growth. This is basically utilizing, tapping the resources of the ocean, the blue ocean, for the benefit of the society. But once again, since it has to be a sustainable growth, it has to be in a very controlled manner, in such a way that we allow sufficient time for growth and we leave enough for the future generations to use that. This has been defined by various bodies. The UNO defined it, World Bank has defined it. The latest one, and which is more apt and more acceptable by everybody, is the definition given by the World Bank, where it says that the sustainable blue economies is sustainable use of ocean resources for the economic growth of the present generation, so that it can improve the livelihoods, it can create more jobs, but at the same time it should preserve the health of the ocean, the ecosystem of the ocean for future generations. In line with that, I would like to just tell for your, bring to the attention of your audience that what exactly is blue economy. There are a lot of activities in NITI Aayog. We had during our maritime policy, the creation of maritime policy, the policy was about some 100 pages, but we had devoted close to 25. That means 25% of that policy was devoted purely on blue economy. So what exactly is blue economy? It's activities in the deep sea, which could be deep sea fishing, it could be deep sea mining. There are plenty of minerals which are available on the ship's bottom. So deep sea mining, wind farms, not seen in India right now, but all over Europe we have farms right in the middle of the sea, say a few miles from the coast, where you see these wind mills which are there. They generate enough electricity, and then we have wave farms. Wave farms means twice in a day we have change of tides. Every time the waves come in or go out on the high and the low tide, it generates electricity. So wind farms, wave farms, oil and gas exploration, which all of us are very much aware, aquaculture, then desalination, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, they are the leaders in this. They use the seawater to generate fresh water for the entire country, and it's a very successful operation, not yet started in India. And then waste disposal. Waste disposal, we have had enough conventions. One of them was the London Convention for Disposal of Waste. Then protection of our own biodiversity. One thing which is very new is something called as bioprospecting. Now, what is bioprospecting? It is an exploration of natural resources of the sea, which we mean, by that I mean exploring small molecules, small macromolecules and biochemicals which are available in the sea for creating medicines. It is used in pharmaceutical industry, used in cosmetic industries. Cosmetic industries, we have lipsticks and perfumes. Some of the bio plants which are used for creation of these are sponges, marine sponges, seaweeds. These are those green weeds which we see growing in around the seashores. And one of the very important one is phytoplankton, and not seen around Indian coast, but very, very prominent around the African coast. The beauty of these phytoplankton is that when a ship passes, you could see could see it like a tube light, millions of tube lights. Obviously, when it is dark, millions of tube lights shine around the ship at night. These are nothing else but water plants, or we call them plankton, which shine at night. It's an amazing experience. The ship, you feel as if the ship is passing through millions of tube lights. But this is a very useful plant which is used for creating used in pharmaceutical industry. This is one of the recent ones, and a very, very prominent part it plays in the blue economy of the blue economy. And you'll be surprised that in Government of India has made formidable steps, huge steps in actually surveying our EEZ, our economic zone, which officially extends up to 200 nautical miles. There is a regulation. There is a guideline called UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Law of Seas, which says that every country, every coastal country, must have its economic zone, exclusive economic zone till 200 nautical miles. But after the results of the survey which the Government of India carried out, they have in fact put in an application to extend our EEZ up to 350 miles. Only because of utilizing the blue economy, only because of utilizing the various minerals and exploration possibilities up to 350 nautical miles. The permission is not yet through, but yes, India has put in an application for permission to extend their EEZ up to 350 miles. So there's plenty available for us, for the mankind to exploit. But like you said, like your question was, it has to be done in a very controlled manner, that we have enough left for the future generations.
Okay, so
Glad to hear from you, sir. So, yeah,
Right.
that was really innovative and thoughtful, because when we see that India already has such a vast coastline, and yet there is a lot to be utilized of our maritime coastline. Glad to hear such things. Over to you, Parul, for the next couple of questions.
Yes, thank you, Kartikeya. Um, if we figure out, like, as we know, shipping is responsible for around 90% of the global trade. However, with constant trade lines zipping across the seas, the vast impact of the shipping has caused unprecedented pollution to it. How exactly would you assess the situation of shipping or, for say, maritime trading with respect to sustainability?
But firstly, I'll beg to disagree with you for using the term unprecedented pollution by shipping. If
Okay,
we,
sir.
because if you actually go to the figures, you will find that just 3% of world pollution is done by shipping. The rest 97% is done by everybody else except shipping. So we really, but not that not because I belong to shipping, but I'm very proud that shipping is contributing only 3% of the pollution. The facts have confirmed that shipping is contributing only 3%. And surprisingly, which nobody knows, our drawback is when you were small, you must have read about a small phrase called out of sight, out of mind.
So,
I'm sure you're aware of this. Everybody reads about it when when they're children. Now, out of sight means the shipping is out of sight, and hence it is not in everybody's mind. So whenever something happens, everybody says, it must be the shipping which has caused all this pollution. Well, that is not so. It's just 3%. Some people claim that it is 3%, but some of the resources, one of the resources which we trust very much is Wikipedia. Wikipedia claims that it's just 2.8% of the pollution which is done by the ships. And surprisingly, shipping is one of the most regulated industries in the world. It is even more regulated than the aircraft industry and the airlines. For every small thing, even the minutest of things, there is a regulation. And ships, by the way, under the present legal regime, are not permitted to discharge anything. When I say anything, means anything. They're not allowed to discharge anything at sea. Even if you throw a small piece of wood, it is a crime as per shipping law. Now, we are not allowed to discharge anything, throw anything into the sea. The only thing which is permitted is throwing of food waste. And that also, it has to be grounded. It has to be grinded into very, 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 very minute particles. And that only is permitted to be thrown. And that also when the ship is moving, so that you don't throw it at a particular spot, but it is spread all over the thing, all over the place while the ship is moving. So we're not throwing anything. In fact, ships are causing no pollution right now as far as the seas are concerned. But yes, we can accept that yes, there is some pollution from the fuel which the ships are using. But like we said in the beginning, that as per IMO resolution, which I quoted earlier, MEPC 74, which I also quoted earlier, from IMO is now very seriously pursuing the Sustainable Development Goals, which we call as SDG. And in line with that, from 1st of January 2020, the ships are now using very special kind of fuel. Earlier, before 1st January 20, it was called as the January 20 regulation. Before 1st January 20, ships were using fuel which had a sulfur content of 3.5%. Now it has come down to 0.5%. That means it's a reduction of nearly 75 to 80% in the sulfur content of the fuel which is being used by the ships. So you can imagine the contribution which the shipping and how serious the shipping industries are actually in pursuing the goal of UNO COP21 in reducing the air pollution. I have already told you that they don't throw anything in the water, so there's no water pollution. And now they don't throw anything in the air. Well, 0.5% sulfur is hardly anything. Shipping is one of the largest contributors towards a sustainable development. In, if I remember correctly, the Secretary General of UNO of IMO, Mr. Lim, in the 120th or I think 122nd session of IMO said that henceforth the theme of IMO would be to create awareness of the UNO's Sustainable Development Goals, and they want IMO to become a showcase for the entire world to prove to the world that shipping is leading in these goals of sustainable development created by UNO. And he also said that in line with this, all the countries, all the coastal states, all the member states which are part of IMO will ensure that all ships aim for zero pollution. That means, in any case, I have told you that by 2050, they're aiming for 50% of what it was in 2008. So once again, with a lot of respect, without anything, I would like to disagree with what you said, that shipping is causing pollution, which I can assure you it is not the case.
And so, if I may ask you a question pertaining to the ongoing testing times, shipping, maritime transportation, and logistic have become a huge part of this pandemic chain. And as we know, it has hit a hard rock at this moment. What should be the probable course of action or solution to such a global pandemic in order to get back on the maritime track?
Difficult to say. A lot of experts in the industry have come out with their theories of how companies should behave, what actions they should take, how they should rechart their trajectories, how they should regenerate new ideas. They've all come out with their theories, but the bottom line at the bottom they have put, they all say that this is mere speculation because we don't know how the world is going to look after the pandemic is over. These are so uncertain terms. We have all realized that the furious speed at which COVID-19 has spread, creating havoc in countries, and not just Asia. One of the most advanced country, USA, is number one. They are suffering the most. Our own country is having a lot of problems, but shockingly, people say that India has 25 lakh cases, but when they don't compare it with the population, it's hardly 1%. Hardly 1% when the government, when we have got just 1% of the country's population who are suffering, it is a fantastic achievement by the government. So there are various theories. We don't know how the companies are going to perform, how they will react when the pandemic is over. What would be the trade situation at that time when the pandemic is over? Currently, along with the pandemic, we are having a very strained relation between the two largest trading nations, that is US and China. So we don't know what the situation would be after a few years. But I could quote some of the large companies like Maersk Lines, Hapag-Lloyd, MSC, Mediterranean Shipping Company. They have said, yes, pandemic has affected their operations, but at the same time, they are taking steps to increase their revenue. Just last month, if your audience are aware of ships called container ships, these are the ones which carry large containers. I'll just give you, these container ships have got fixed routes. Let's say they start from China, they come to Singapore, then they come to some country, and then they keep hopping right till they reach USA, and then they come back to China. They're called traders or liners on the fixed route. They have decided that all the ships which are traveling from China or US and going back to US, let's say I'll give you a small route. Let's say it's coming from India, Gulf, USA, back to Singapore, back to USA, have now included Colombo. Colombo was never a part of their trading, this particular trading route. They said that we will also stop at Colombo, taking advantage of Colombo's cheap port dues, better facilities, utilize it as a transshipment hub. So they've changed the route last month, and they've got some encouraging results. They're doing better. compared to the month of June. They've done better in July, and they are looking for a better performance in August. So this is just one of the trade routes that I have given you. They have got plenty of trade routes. So that is one step which shipping companies have taken. Another step is with the 1st January 2020, this new fuel came, which reduction of sulfur was from 3.5 to 0.5%. That initially was very expensive and not available in many ports. So the ship owners were finding it very expensive and very difficult to operate. Now that has been made available in a lot of ports, and the prices have dropped down. We are lucky that even the fuel, the crude oil prices have come down. As a result, this low sulfur fuel has also come down. So that is one thing. The ship owners, whenever they reach a port which has good quality and low sulfur fuel at a low cost, they fill it up. So they bring down their cost. These are few steps which the ship owners are taking. But how and what and when it will happen, only time can tell. It's pure speculation if anybody comments on that at this moment, right? Yeah.
Okay, so thank you. That was very resourceful. Kartikeya, may I request you to take the next questions?
Yeah. So you mentioned about the reduced amount of sulfur which is released by the new types of fuel used by ships. Now, moving forward on those lines, how important do you think such cost-effective and fuel-efficient ways of shipping might help underdeveloped and developing countries in firstly alleviating poverty and especially agrarian countries like India? And how does this help them, secure food security and promote agriculture? How does this help, according to you?
Well, well, the baseline is, and everybody agrees with this, that global trade is a force which creates good things in life. You have global trade, we don't have physical boundaries, but we should have economical and financial boundaries, and that increases global trade. With global trade, only good things happen. Trade is very essential in raising the communities and the poverty, because once you have trade, then the local people who stay around the coast, they also gain from it. There is more job, there is more livelihood, there is better chances that the financial conditions are better. While you may say that trade may create some local disturbances, local problems, but in general, it is believed that trade brings in financial growth for the local community. And this is not something which I speak lightly, because the World Bank themselves have in recent past, say, I think around 2017, they had quoted in one of the reports that trade has actually played a very critical role in reduction of the poverty, in the reduction of the poverty. And they also went on to say that the further we integrate the economy of the world, of different nations, of rather the developing countries, the better it is for reduction of the poverty. Global economy, I think they said that global economy is essential for achieving the goal of ending extreme poverty. I will also like to quote the comment of one of the very famous economists, professor of economics, one of the Indian gentlemen, Mr. Devashish Mitra. In his report, he has said, in fact, he has given figures that according to his research, he has given that 1 percentage point increase in trade. If you increase the trade by 1 percentage point, it is associated by 0.15% decline in the poverty. So if you increase the trade by 1%, the poverty actually goes down by 0.15%. The exact, I think he gave was 0.149. I've told you 0.15. He also said that there is something called tariff. Tariff means the port dues for importing and exporting goods. So he also went on to say that if there is a 1% decline in the average tariff, that means imports and exports become easier. So a decline of 1% in the average tariff is actually associated with 0.4% decline in the poverty. So you can see that if the trade increases, the import-export increases, 1% increase in the trade is 0.149% decrease in the poverty. And with the increase in trade and reduced tariffs, there is a decrease of 0.4% in poverty. So yes, increase in trade is very, very helpful, and it does help in reducing the poverty. To give you an example of what actually happens with increase in trade, we have it reduces the poverty by creating new jobs, by creating giving more employment to unskilled labor who are staying close to the port. It lowers the products, the prices of the products, because transporting by sea is much cheaper than transporting by land or by road, and it creates markets around the port and increasing the trade around the port. Example of our own very country, India, trade as a share of our GDP was roughly around 11 to 12% in 1987-88, and it increased to 47% somewhere around 2012, only because of increase in trade. And during that same time, the average tariff, which is the port tariff, was reduced from 80% to 10%. This actually reflected in the drop of the poverty in from 53% to 32%. So you can see how increase in trade has in fact reduced poverty in our very own country. From 53% in somewhere around 1980s, it has come down to 32% in 2015 and 16, only because of increase in trade and reduction of the tariff. So poverty helps. I mean, that increase in trade helps in reducing the poverty. Yes.
Thanks a lot for that one, Professor. That objective analysis really makes the picture very clear that how an increase in trade and efficient utilization of maritime resources that we have may help us meet our poverty goals, reducing the poverty.
Yep.
Over to you, Parth.
As we know, billions of people live across the coastal lines, which are expected to rise in the coming years. Now, if we analyze in the backdrop of that, do you think the importance of sustainable development of maritime industry that aims at reducing emission from shipping has otherwise increased?
Yes, I think in the very beginning of our discussion, I had said that we have come down now to 0.5% sulfur fuel. All ships now mandatorily have to use 0.5% fuel. So yes, it has reduced the air pollution, sea pollution, ocean pollution. Many way the ships were not doing. Whatever pollution you see on the ship, on the shores, or on the beaches, are not from the ships. It was created by people ashore. So as far as and all this 0.5% fuel is all in the line of sustainable development, sustainable shipping, which the IMO has promised, and the Secretary General of IMO has made it a theme and to make shipping industry a showcase in the world. So all this reduction in the fuel, reduction in the sulfur, which is emitted from the ship's fuel, is certainly in line with the sustainable development, and certainly is going to assist all those who are staying close to the shore. Yes, you're right. Plenty of people are staying close to the coast, but they are all going to benefit by these very strong and very powerful steps taken by IMO and implemented by all the member states like India, countries worldwide, and very, very strongly followed by all the shipping industry. Yes, it is going to help, of course.
And so, if we talk about a career-related question, what do you think? What role does education and awareness about maritime law and industry in general play in achieving sustainable goals? Especially when we talk about many young law students being in sheer dilemma while opting for maritime law to develop their career.
Yeah, well, I said out of sight, out of mind. Nobody knew about shipping till now. And we are now in 2020, and youngsters like you are asking questions about maritime law. So I think our generation should uh, pat our own backs for creating some awareness for you, so that youngsters like you are asking such questions. And India is proud to be one of the youngest nations right now in the world. We have close to 70%, I think, of people between the age of 18 and 40. Uh, in addition to that, our Prime Minister, if you have noticed his speeches in the past 2 or 3 months, he gave a speech, I think we are in August, so he gave a speech somewhere around end of July or early August on skill development. And for the first time in 74 years of India's independence, a Prime Minister of our country gave a major portion of his speech devoted a major portion of his speech only to shipping, development of skill development in shipping. It was a very proud moment for the shipping industry of India. The Prime Minister recognizes that there is an industry like shipping. And if you listen to his speeches after that, I think even on the Independence Day speech, he spoke about development of shipping. The words shipping, ship, ocean, sea, they were music to our ears, to people who belong to this industry. And yes, like we have been discussing right from the beginning, sustainable development is something which was initiated by United Nations in 2012 in Rio de Janeiro, and has been very strongly pursued by all the countries. It has been ratified, in fact, accepted by a lot of countries except two, that is Australia and United States. But yes, all the other countries are very serious about it, including our own country. India is very serious about it. They are the president, along with the prime minister, along with the shipping industry, and the minister of shipping are very serious about this. They have created colleges which are now imparting maritime law education. I believe yours is one of them. There is another Gujarat Maritime University which is going full steam. These are the two recent colleges which have come into maritime industry, maritime law education industry. How does the country implement the dream of India of sustainable development? How does it do it? Now, we just can't bring anybody to create awareness, anybody to implement the laws and the regulations. How does it do that? It is youngsters like you who must take up this profession of maritime law. It is youngsters like you who are going to create this, who are going to take India forward in the industry of in the shipping industry. There is a very huge scope. Now, everything which you do, uh, at your age, I know you're aware that we should not throw plastics. It's not good for environment. But by the way, if you throw plastic in sea, which is now banned, you all know that plastic dissolves by itself in some 700-800 years. So you're aware of it. Now, how do we implement, how do we bring sustainable development into the sea? Somebody has to be there to ensure that these laws, these legislation, these regulations or guidelines which India has ratified, who's doing them? Who is going to create new laws? Who's going to draft those laws? Who's going to ensure that these laws are followed? Only a lawyer, and that too a maritime lawyer, a lawyer who understands this. The present buzzword in all youngsters, whether in the industry of maritime or in any other industry, is environment. A better environment for you people and for your children in future. That is only possible if you have the knowledge of it. And the buzzword in shipping also for future is clean, pure oceans. And that is only possible if we have a lot of people in maritime industry, including budding lawyers like you. There should be a lot of people in the maritime law industry. And this is not talking about sustainable development. India is also the second largest importer of oil. So plenty of ships, close to 20-25% of the world ships touch Indian coast. There will be plenty of avenues for maritime lawyers. And new colleges are coming. Now, who's going to teach maritime law if youngsters like you don't come into this? There's a lot of avenues, plenty of avenues for budding lawyers to enter. This is a very niche industry right now, and if you step into it right now, sky is the limit. I wish you all the best, and I hope you join maritime law.
That was very, very encouraging, sir. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. Kartikeya, proceed.
So, first of all, thanks for that inspiration. We'll surely try and
Not
pursue our
try,
goal to
not try.
become,
You should enter
yeah,
maritime law.
trying to become a successful maritime. We should definitely enter maritime.
Okay.
So, sir, the war or the fight against gender equality is continuing for several centuries, and it has still continued. And maritime law is, or maritime industry is no alien to that concept. So, how do you think gender equality plays an important role if we want to achieve a wholesome, sustainable development of the industry?
Oh, very interesting. If you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, there were 17 of them. And I believe, don't remember exactly, but I believe number 5 or number 6 of those 17 was gender equality. So it is not something which is very new. It is something which is very much there, and the shipping industry is not at all lagging behind. We have plenty of girls who are joining Merchant Navy and making India proud. And I just don't say they joined, but they all also made India very proud. The best example is Captain Radhika Menon. I don't know if you have heard of her, but she has done some remarkable things in her life, and she has been rewarded by even the IMO. So even at international level, she has been awarded. Plus, of course, she has received some medal from the President of India also. So we have plenty of girls who are coming in every aspect, as engineers, as captains, but very few, I'm sad to say, are in the maritime law industry. But I look the way you people with so much of enthusiasm are asking these questions. I'm quite confident that we will have very soon some very fantastic maritime law lawyers, lady maritime lawyers in the maritime in the industry in India. But yes, when they come armed with the knowledge of the sustainable development and the aims and ambitions of IMO and UNO and our own country, I'm sure they will play a very, very important and a dominant role in ensuring sustainable development for our own country. Surprisingly, I know 3 or 4 of them who have already ventured into maritime law. They've already started practicing, and a few couple of days back, I was listening to one of the webinars. One of the ladies who was a speaker was also a maritime lawyer, and she was fantastic. It was unbelievable. Very young, very young. I think she has just started to practice 2, 3 years back. So highly knowledgeable. Very encouraging to see that. Once again, I tell you, please enter maritime law. Yeah.
Paul, that is specially for you. So please know it.
It's an honor, sir.
So when we see the world map, it's a common sight that the most of it seems blue, right? And that is because it's mostly covered by water. However, there is still a persisting question that there is a lack of drinking water in various countries. The water is very expensive in many other countries. So, how do you think sustainable shipping or sustainable overall development of maritime law can, fight this problem?
I don't, I don't know how it is related to shipping. Access to fresh water or clean water, I don't know how it is available to shipping. I mean, related to shipping. For all that I can say is that yes, we don't cause. I'll give you a small story. Uh, we were in west coast of America when I was still a junior officer, and this was Long Beach, that is the coast of California. So one fine morning, those days the ships used to stay for quite some time in port. So one fine morning, we read in the newspapers that Nike shoes at that time, one shoe was costing about $120. Even now it's expensive, but those days 120 was a huge amount. So Nike shoes were found floating on the beaches of Long Beach, millions of them. And people are running around collecting those shoes. They were floating, coming onto the beach of Long Beach. Long Beach is the name of the city. And people were running around collecting and saying, "Oh, if you've got left of number 6 shoe, I will exchange it with the right of number 6. You can take the right shoe, right one of number 8, or you've got 7 of left. I've got 7 of right, and let's exchange." It became a big affair. Now, how did they land up on the beaches of Long Beach? A ship carrying container of Nike shoes 2 years back had lost that container because of bad weather, heavy storm. That container had fallen overboard. The container was full of Nike shoes. Those shoes took one full circle in the ocean for 2 years and came back and landed up on the beaches of California, Long Beach. And became a big advertising campaign for Nike that our shoes, despite of 2 years of hardships at sea, are still as strong and still people want it. Free of cost, they had an advertisement. So now we have on shipping, we have stopped throwing anything overboard. So all I can imagine that before shipping industry came out with such regulations, maybe the stuff which we throw out at sea floats and comes back onto the coastal area, lands up in the coastal area, creates pollution, and creates a problem with the drinking water. So that could be one of the reasons, but it is not prevalent. It's not prevalent anymore. Ships don't cause any more pollution. If there is any problem with access to clean fresh water, it is not the doing of the shipping industry. It has to be managed ashore only by people ashore. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Okay.
We shall only hope that it might lead to that the situations might get better in the future.
Yeah.
So, Parul, over to you for the last round of questions.
Yeah. So the next question is quite a talk of the town. Now, how can the industry stakeholder as well as the international maritime community together best support a robust, sustainable development for the growth in the maritime sector?
Yep. Right as we did in the beginning of our talk, I had narrated few things which IMO and has already started. But I think I will give you a list of what the industry is presently doing and is aiming to do in future in order to reach, fulfill the goals of sustainable development. Firstly is by I'll give out a list. Firstly is by reducing the greenhouse gases, which I've already told you that we have aimed to bring it down to 50% of the base figure of 2008. By the year 2050, shipping industry and IMO intends to bring it down to 50%. Then preventing pollutions of the sea, which is of course not by us, but by the shore people staying ashore, by the coastal areas. Just for the benefit of your audience, there is a convention called the London Convention. It's called LDC, L for London, D for Delta, and C for Calcutta. So London Dumping Convention, which provides guidelines for all the coastal states to avoid any kind of discharge of unwanted materials into the sea. India, unfortunately, has not yet ratified it, but yes, it's in the pipeline and India will ratify it very soon, and hence all the discharges into the sea would be stopping. So reducing greenhouse gases, preventing pollution of the seas by avoiding throwing of unwanted chemicals and pollutants. A lot of industries on the coast, they have a dirty habit of throwing everything into the sea. So that probably will be prevented once the London Dumping Convention is ratified by India, by creating more awareness amongst all the stakeholders, which includes the shipping industry, which includes the coastal cities, the coastal population, which includes the fishing industry, the fishing communities on the coast. The next one is by educating the ship's crew, telling them that it is for their benefit that they need to maintain a sustainable development. by stopping discharge of anything and everything, which of course will once again come with the London Dumping Convention. By now, the only problem which the shipping industry presently faces is that we have stopped throwing everything. But a ship is a small city, it's a small municipal corporation that has its own power generation plant, it has its own municipal corporation, it has its own drainage system, it has its own civil authorities. It's a small city. So garbage is generated, waste is generated. So as per IMO, that waste has to be discharged when the ship is ashore. So there has to be an adequate receiving facilities. There has to be adequate facilities when the ship touches port to discharge all that. So all the countries which have signed this IMO resolution, which have agreed to this IMO resolution, they should create such facilities ashore to ensure that ships' waste is very adequately, easily discharged. And lastly, I think is by creating more strict regulations, which IMO is now planning to prevent even more air pollution. We have already come down to 0.5% sulfur fuel. To bring in more stronger regulations and adhere to something which is very commonly known as in sustainable development. It's called Agenda 2030. So it's called Agenda 2030. Everybody calls it Agenda 2030, where by 2030 there are certain guidelines, certain aims which have been drafted, and the shipping industry has to achieve those goals by 2030. It's known as Agenda 2030. So we need to create some more strict regulations to monitor, not only regulations, but even to monitor all the countries are actually following the principles of Agenda 2030. These are the few things which I feel will further reduce and encourage the sustainable development.
Well, so I must say that was a very well elaborated list.
Thank you.
And lastly and most excitingly, we would love to hear a message from you for the sector of maritime law and its entirety.
Well, this is so close to my heart that I've been singing the same tune right from the beginning of the interview. That India is one of the youngest nations. We have close to 70% youth, young people in this country, which is so full of dynamism, so full of enthusiasm. They are people who have their own mind. Like people of our generation were affected by what our parents told us. But people in the present generation have their own mind. They're exposed to so much knowledge. They create their own principles. They chalk out their own path in life. They're so young, so full of enthusiasm. I would really feel that all this youth join together and create a vibrant, beautiful India and create something called as a reverse brain drain. Instead of we going abroad, let these young people create an India where people from abroad come to India and like to work here. So all that is possible when youngsters like you and your fellow students and fellow lawyers join and create this kind of vibrancy in our country. I wish you all the best for this, and I hope that maritime law becomes your favorite subject.
Thank you, sir. So I guess all of us here will agree that given the pressure, it is of the utmost responsibility and necessity that all of us come together to preserve this natural resource. Not just the stakeholders, but the entire marine community needs to take a note that it takes two hands to clap.
Absolutely.
And let's pledge to have a sustainable shipping for the sustainable planet. So this was a very healthy discussion today. It's a pleasure to learn so many aspects and thoughts on this hot topic, and we remain genuinely grateful to you for this.
Thank you very much. And please convey my best wishes to all the students, your fellow classmates, and please encourage them to join maritime law.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for your time, sir.
Thank you. Best wishes.